So hello to everybody on Facebook. It's nice to you. Ian and Jean will probably pulling in on Facebook because they're still not 100%. Andy and Carol are still self-isolating, and there's others that are hiding away. So that's an interesting time. This morning, I just want to talk about when you're too busy for what matters. That's what I'm talking about this morning. When you are too busy for what matters. When I first moved home, when I moved out of my dad's house and I was getting married and Joe and I was setting up his house, we're trying to get everything there. We used a car to move all my stuff and all Joe's stuff to the house. And it were a Renault 5, so it wasn't even a big car. And we moved everything in. But then 10 years later, we moved out of that house and we had to get a van, a box van. And we had a baby then, so we moved everything out with a box van to his next house. So things had really built up a little bit. When we moved from that house to the one that we're in now, we needed a 7.5 ton lorry to move it out. So what had happened? Throughout the time of living, little things have crept in. People had bought us things, or we'd bought things. Our house started getting full. And I'm looking forward to the day when we move again, maybe. We'll need an Arctic. But things crept into our house and crept in. Toys came as the kids came, more clothes, more, toasters, and, you always have that sandwich, or you always have to make a fondue that you never make. There's always one of them somewhere, or a coffee machine that you never use. And things crept in, but life can be like that. That over time we let things come into our lives and we take on responsibilities and actions and do things that steadily creep into our lives to the point where we can tend to live our lives as being rushed, overwhelmed, busy. We've always got something to do and somewhere to be, and there's never enough hours in the day. And it seems like we're being squeezed not only on the things we want to do, but by other people's agendas. So we're often busy trying to find things to the point where some of us, or some of you, spend time in the toilet doing work because that's the only quiet time you've got. And it's a rush. There's a statement that I've found that I heard somebody say, and I think it's quite amazing, and I really want to share it with you. Maybe the greatest enemy to the life you want may be the life that you are living. I'll say that again. The greatest enemy to the life you want may be the life that you are living right now. I'm going to try and come across this message this morning, and I'm not saying I've got it all sorted out and it's all together. In fact, some of the stuff I'm going to say to you is opposite to the way that I've lived my life. I am that one person who used to say, I will sleep when I'm dead. I'm always busy doing something. People say you need 8 hours sleep. There's been times in my life where I've lived on 3 hours sleep, 2 hours sleep. In fact, there was a time where 1.5 hours was the regular. Now I'm back to where I should be. But we often let things into our lives, and even in my own life, see, I've always been, let's go. The devil never takes a day off, so I'm not taking a day off. He doesn't stop, so I'm not stopping. And that used to be the way of life. But over the last 18 months in particular, I've tended to slow down a bit because there's always something, I don't know about you guys, but in your own homes, no matter how much you clean it, it will always need cleaning. Doesn't matter how much you tidy, it will always need tidying. We're often running from place to place, from job to job. We're trying to pay the bills, get the kitchen clean, raise the kids, read the news, clean the garden, cook the tea, buy the clothes, wear the clothes, wash the clothes, buy new clothes, put out the clothes, and then take photos of the clothes that we're trying to get rid of. We're trying to get our likes in, and then we've always got to have time to do Netflix or Disney. There's always something to do, somewhere to be, somewhere to rush off. But in all that, our priorities we need to be aware of, because often we talk about our priorities. Our priorities may be having a family meal together, but we're so rushed we can't do that. Having deep conversations with people, yet we're so rushed we don't have time for that. Taking time out to rest and reflect, to read and to seek God. But we don't have time for all that. But the interesting thing is, it's all right because nobody has time for anything. Everybody's rushed. But is that way that Jesus walked? You see, the other week, Jesus, there you are. The other week, I talked about that Jesus asked people to follow him. He never said, put your hand up in a meeting. He never said, say a prayer. He just said, follow me. And then last week, I talked about that he is the way. I didn't say his name. He is the way. And we should walk the way that he walks. So that's an interesting thought. So how did Jesus walk? Jesus spent 3 years, and yet in those 3 years of his life, he embraced the mission of the Father. He actually took on 12 people that weren't really brilliant, but he took them on. Took on these disciples. He trained them in the kingdom values. He actually endured hatred from the Pharisees. He resisted temptation from the devil. He healed all sorts of people, and he loved all sorts of hurting people. He took time out for people. He preached fearlessly, and he fulfilled over 350 prophecies that are listed in the Old Testament. Yet Jesus never ran once. He never went out there. Just kill it for me, or leave it, turn it over. He never ran. He never was busy doing silly things. He was always busy about his Father's business. You see, there's nothing wrong with being busy. There's a problem with being rushed. And I'm not talking about, when you get old and you dithery. Oh, everything's rush. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about everything just piling in on you. And yet Jesus never ran anywhere. You never read in the Gospels that he suddenly goes, guys, we're late, let's get over to Jericho. Or I need to get back to Jerusalem. He never said, oh, Thomas in here, let's forget about him and just carry on. You never saw him rushing around. In fact, when he picked an animal to help him get around, it were a donkey. It wasn't a horse. Has any of you seen Eeyore speeding? Eeyore the donkey. No, donkeys don't rush anywhere. And Jesus never rushed anywhere. He just carried on living life. You see, the greatest enemy to your life and to my life may be the life that we're living right now. You see, in Mark 2 it says this, and as Jesus walked along, he saw Levi, this is Matthew, sitting at a tax collector's booth, and he said this to him. He said, follow me. And Levi got up and followed him. You see, Levi followed Jesus, but Jesus was walking an unrushed life. So Levi, to follow Jesus, had to stop the rush of life and settle into an unrushed life. If we follow an unrushed Jesus, we should be living an unrushed life. Is that too... Well, it's logic to me. If Jesus was unrushed and we're following him and we're walking in his ways, then we should be unrushed. You might say to me, yeah, but the difference is Jesus didn't have an house to maintain and he didn't have this and that. No, he just had the universe on his shoulders, the great plan of salvation, and he was, battling the enemy and walking towards this. If you find yourself always rushed, always stressed, always overwhelmed, exhausted, then you're doing stuff in your life that you ought not to be doing. You were never built for that. Now, there's a difference between being busy and being efficient and being rushed. If people say to me they're always tired or I'm tired, I say, well, go to bed early or can't. Well, why can't you? Because I figure if you're tired, you go to sleep, you go to bed. That's it. It's kind of like, if you're tired, you'll go to bed. But the problem is we've always got something we're trying to creep in, something we're trying to push in. There's always something else to do. There's always somebody else that we've got to answer to. Yet Jesus never did this. Yet in our own lives, we always feel condemned because we're not doing what we should be doing, and I'm trying not to bring that across to you guys. But often if we're rushing around, we always feel, condemned because we're not reading the Bible like we know we should, or praying like we should, or being around Christians like we know we should, or witnessing like we should, because we just don't have time to do all those things. Isn't it interesting that the number one fear that most people have is public speaking? And yet Jesus says, go out and tell everybody. Maybe the public speaking fear is something we've learned from people who learnt it, because the devil was whispering in people's ears. Maybe the number one fear that most people have is a lie they've been told from the enemy. Because the only two fears that any of us ever had when we were born is the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. Every other fear that I and you have has been taught to us by somebody else, and we have learnt it, and we have adopted it, and we have taken it on ourselves. Naturally, you're not fearful of anything other than loud noises and falling, which I think is quite good. Beyond that, you need to learn a healthy fear of fearing God, a healthy fear of snakes, and angry wives. They're okay to be fearful of, but learn that one. All the rest you need to look at. You know, last week we looked at this verse, and I said that Jesus said this. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and I will give you rest." So if we're not at rest in our souls, then we're not resting on Jesus. And my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That's from the NIV, but the Message puts it this way, and I like the way the Message puts it. It says, "Are you tired?" Well, looking at most people's faces, they go, yes. So, Jesus has a question, are you tired? Are you worn out? Burnt out on religion? I like Jesus because, number one, Jesus didn't like religion. He hated religion. He came to give us life, not religion. But he says, are you burnt out on religion? Come to me and get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. And this is the key. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. The unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. So if we're rushed and burdened and feeling crushed and anxious about everything we've got to do, that's not from God. That's not from Jesus, because Jesus says, I will not lay anything upon you that's heavy, that's ill-fitting. Now again, I'm saying there's a difference between being busy and productive and being rushed and burdened. Sometimes you need to get the job done and be productive and to be efficient, and you've got to put things in order, and you've got a job to do, and you've got things to do. That's not rushed. Rushed is often the other stuff we add on to our lives. So some stuff is essential and some stuff isn't. Jesus says this, get away with me and you'll recover your lives. Walk with me, watch how I do life. And that's why it's great to read the Gospels. Because as you read the Gospel, you see how Jesus did it. Just look how he did his life. Quite chilled out, really. I mean, I'm not being funny, but if I was going somewhere where I was going to get a good beating, I wouldn't be an happy camper walking towards there. I'd probably be a bit miserable or snappy. And yet, even to the end of Jesus' life, he was still encouraging, building up, strengthening people, but he wasn't rushing. He still had time for people, and he still went there. If you look at his life, the guy who had the biggest plan going, biggest mission than anybody, Jesus, he was given just over 33 years to live on this planet, to change the world and cause an amazing revolution. But for the first 30 years, he didn't do naught publicly. He did lots privately. And then when he was baptised, the start of the mission, what does he do? He goes off into the wilderness for 40 days to spend time with his dad. You've got a mission. He didn't rush. He knew where he was going to be. He knew what he was going to do. And he just walked. And even then, if you look at the first miracle of Jesus in John's Gospel, it says the first miracle was at a wedding. Jesus took time out to go to a wedding. Some people are invited to weddings and can't go. And then if they do go, they're in, hello, I'm here, see you later. But Jesus didn't do that. He went in and he didn't go in saying, look, I'm here, I'm the Son of God, move over. He stayed at the wedding, and then towards the end of the wedding, when they run out of strong pop, wine, he says, let's keep the party going and get some more in. But he didn't go to the off license. So Jesus stayed to the end. People have to rush away from stuff because they ain't got time. I need to be somewhere else. Jesus loved being in the company of people. You know, when a synagogue leader came up to him, Jairus, his name was, and he says, my daughter's dying, Jesus says, I'm on my way with you. If somebody called for most of us, can you come? We've got something else to do. But Jesus said, I'm coming to you. But then a lady came up to him, snuck up to him, touched the hem of his garment, and she was healed. And Jesus stopped, took time out for her. But Jairus now is panicking because now his daughter's died. But Jesus says, all right, don't rush, don't panic. Just believe. He went and raised her up. He didn't go, oh, I missed it. I took time out for this lady here and I've missed that. He didn't. He just carried on. He just moved forward in the things that he's got for. Jesus wasn't rushed. So the question we need to ask is, if Jesus was not rushed, why are we so rushed? If we're following Jesus, why are we so rushed when he wasn't? Some people are rushed because they're running from something. Keep yourself busy, run, keep going forward, keep going forward. Running away from failures, insecurities, hurts or abuse. Keep forward, keep running, keep moving, keep running from the past. Some people are running because they're running to something. Have you ever talked with anybody and all they ever talk about is something in the future? Something down there. When this happens and then. When this happens then. You know, people often think and say, when I get a good marriage, then it'll all be great. When I succeed, it'll be great. When I have enough money, it'll be great. When I get enough likes on TikTok or on Instagram, it'll be great. But sometimes you get those things and it doesn't change anything. The problem is that often we're chasing a life that will leave us empty. I often look at my own life and ask, is where I am going somewhere I want to be when I get there? Because I am in control of my life. Nobody else is. If you're in a position that you don't like, it's because of the decisions you made in your life to get where you are right now. So, change the decisions in your life now so that in a year's, 2 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever, it'll change, because in 10 years' time you can't look back and say, oh, I didn't want to be here. No, you've got there because you've chosen to get there. Nobody else can make you be there. Well, my husband, well, my wife. No. You're there because maybe the greatest enemy to the life that you want may be the life that you're living right now. People have said to me, Johnny, it's okay for you, you're a pastor, but I don't have enough time. Joe and I planted a church many years ago, and people talk to me about time, and I laugh at them. Because we planted a church in Brighouse. When Joe was doing a degree course, we had 2 young kids, and I was running my own building business, full time, in your face, working 12 hours in summer sometimes, and we did it. And we had time to witness, and we had time to socialise, and we had time to get out and about. And our kids didn't feel like we'd abandoned them, because we made time. You see, you'll always make time for what you want to do. You'll always make time for what you want to do. The solution isn't more time, the solution is more of what matters, or what matters the most. You'll always make time for something. If someone's a Man United fan, sorry Phil, but if somebody really has got a season ticket, it doesn't matter what's going on, they'll be at that match. You know, if someone's got a hobby of golf or something like that, it doesn't matter what's happening, they'll be there. They'll always make time for it. So we always make time for what we want. The reasons we don't have time for what matters is maybe because we're spending so much time, and I include me in this, so much time on things that don't matter. I've got some interesting statistics. You know, the other week I told you that the average person touches their phone 2,500 times a day, the average person. But there are people who touch their phone 5,200 times a day. I mean, you've got to be thumbs a bit on that one. But there are, Apple did all that stuff. But for the average person spends 706 hours a year on social media. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. That works out at approximately 2 hours a day, which is 2 working days a week. So if you don't have time, what are you spending your time on? It's interesting that the average person spends 737 hours a year, that is, watching TV, which is just over 2 hours a day. That's the average person. Top 10% spend over 8 hours a day watching TV. Do you know what strikes me about people that succeed in life? Most of the people that succeed in life, as in those who are big business people and stuff like that, you know what they all have in common? None of them watch telly. Don't watch films, don't go on YouTube, they read books. They'll watch stuff on news and information, but they read books. Nobody who's successful has time, they say, to watch telly. And yet from an early age, what do most parents do? Sit the kids in front of telly, because that's the system of the world. Hey, I've done it, so I'm not, you know what I mean? We watched In the Night Garden with my 2 when we were little. So, you know, this is an American statistic, but I believe it'll be the same within the UK and some parts of Europe. By the age of 21, the average person who plays games spends 10,000 hours playing video games. That's by the age of 21. The average person spends 2 hours a day playing games. Hey guys, I need to tell you this. I do watch telly every now and then. I do go on social media. I do play games. So I'm talking to me, I'm talking to you. So I'm not just having to go at anybody. All I'm saying is, what are we spending our times doing? If you say you're rushed, what are you rushed doing? I know people are tired, but at midnight, I look at their posts on Facebook, and they're posting things at 12 and 1 o'clock, and then they're telling me they're tired. None of you guys, obviously, I wouldn't say that if you were here. But it is interesting, isn't it? I'm tired. Well, they're posting. So, by the age of 21, so 10,000 hours, what could you do with 10,000 hours? Well, if you got paid £10 an hour, that's £100,000. This, playing games, or doing something productive and getting paid for it. 10,000 hours would actually mean you could read at least, well, up to 2,000 books, the average book. You could learn to play and be a concert pianist in 10,000 hours. So you're thinking, well, I'd like to do this. Well, think about your time. You could learn to fly a plane in 10,000 hours and become a pilot. You could memorize the New Testament. You could read the entire Bible. I mean, it only takes 70 hours, so work that one out. Anybody who's had COVID and had to isolate themselves, one thing I say to them all is, use your time wisely. You've got 10 days, and in 10 days you could read the entire Bible. Yet, I wouldn't ask, has anybody done that? Because even when we're forced to stay at home, we find time to do meaningless, mindless things. I mean, I've got an excuse for the first 4, 5, 6 days I was laid on the sofa, not doing anything. But that was because I wasn't so well. So, the greatest enemy to your life and to my life may be the life that we're living right now. So what do we do? Well, to be honest with you, I have no great answers. I can tell you, but you'll only do what you want to do anyway. I'll talk to you guys there online. You'll only do what you want to do anyway, even if I told you what you should do. So what's the point in telling you what to do? Because you won't do it anyway. But the question I need to ask is, God has been slowing me down over the last 18 months through COVID and through other stuff, slowing me down enough so I can talk to people and listen to people. I'm actually doing a lot more than I used to do, but I'm having a great time doing it. Last night I went upstairs. I was going to print my sermon off. I sit down at the computer, turns it on. This is about 9:30, 10:15 or something. And I thought, I'll just do this before I go to bed. I normally get up early on Sunday morning. So I turned my computer on, my computer switched on, and I automatically clicked onto Facebook, because that's one of the first things that things. And as I'm looking at Facebook, I'm going, I ain't got time to start scrolling. So just as I go to to X out, a friend from school sent me a message asking how I am. So I looked at it, it came up, and I looked at it, I thought, oh, that's nice to hear from him, out. Because I ain't got time. I'm doing something. I've got something for you guys. I'm printing it off for you. I'm thinking of you. No, I'm actually thinking of myself. Because if I did it then, I could have slept in this morning. But then I'm sat there thinking, hang on a minute, why did he message me? And I really felt God was just stirring me up. So I clicked back onto Facebook and said, I'm all right, thank you very much, how are you? I spent the next half an hour having a right conversation with him. Bizarre conversation. And he opened up a conversation. I mean, how's this? How are you? I'm all right, thank you. How are you doing? And he says, I cannot believe that out of our class at school, you became the religious one. I just can't believe it. That opened up something, didn't it? So we had a chat. He's got my phone number now. He lives on the Isle of Wight, so far away. But he said when he comes back up to his family, we're going to connect. Who knows? But I could have said, I don't have time. I've got other things. But I think Jesus always took time for people. He always met people where they were at. He always put himself out. And as followers of Jesus, what do we need to do? There's a prayer that I'm going to get to, and I'm going to read it out to you. But think about this. Who is God? Interesting question. Who is God? Well, the Bible tells us that God is love. Are we okay with that? This is logical now. This is leading you down the garden path. But God is love. The Bible tells us that God is love. What is the greatest command? Jesus says the greatest command is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul and strength. Yet love is incomparable with hurry. Because if Jesus loved people and God is love, and he never rushed and always took time out for people, then rush or rush in and hurrying is an enemy of love. Because if you say you love people but don't have time for people, you don't love people. Because you love yourself. Or I love myself. Because Facebook's more important than somebody else. TikTok, social media, the film, the Netflix, the Disney. We noticed several films came up on Disney. We've watched them. They were good films. Free Guy, highly recommend it. It's a good film. Funny. Gets amusing. But it came up. I had time for that. But not at the expense of doing something for somebody else. Hurry doesn't have time, but love always has time. I'll give you the Bible verse. 1 Corinthians 13. Love is what? Love is patient. Hurry, patient. Hurry, patient. Love is patient. Hurry is not. It's just a thought, isn't it? Is that too? So we need to get some deep Bible study now, don't we? No, simple. Time is precious. And yet, Jesus always made time for everybody. Also, I've got a prayer here, and again, I've nicked it from the same person who said, the greatest enemy of your life may be the life that you're living. A prayer, and I've been saying this prayer, and it says, God, help me to walk slowly enough to experience Jesus fully and love people deeply. I have put it up on Facebook. God, help me to walk slow enough or slowly enough to experience Jesus fully and love people deeply. Because when we're rushing, we haven't got time for Jesus. When we're rushing, we ain't got time for people. We need to be in the present and in the moment right now, to listen to people, to see the needs of people. We need to choose what's important. You know, if you've got a job, your job's important, you need to do a job, but if your job's killing you, you know, I need to change your job. But honestly, I'm not talking about, oh boss, sorry, I'm taking time out from my job. Your job's your job. It's usually whatever hours, 40 hours plus or less, give or take. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the other. You see, you've got 168 hours in a week. If you work 60 hours, you've still got 108 hours in a week. And I don't think anybody works 60 hours a week. I mean, Ruth might come close. But beyond that, you know, I mean, it's one of those things. So choose what's important. You know, start to eliminate what isn't important. Say no to what doesn't matter. Say no to what doesn't matter. Christians can say no, you know that, don't you? No, I don't. No, you can't. You can say no. Say no to what doesn't matter. And yes to what does. And do you know a no doesn't mean a no forever. You may say, no, I don't want to watch that film now, because I've got other things I want to do. But I will watch it later. No, I don't want to go on social media now, but I might do later. Instead of going, I'll do that now, and I'll see you later. I challenge people all the time. People I see, and they say to me, let's meet up for a coffee. And I say, that's good. When? I ask them. Oh, I'll get a diary. So I go, I've got mine. I mean, there's no in my diary. I don't use a diary. But I challenge them. When? Because they say it. They don't want to meet me. They just say it. But I say, when? It's an interesting thought. Try it next time. We need to spend time so we can sense the presence of God and recognise His voice. A great phrase that used to be around, and I think somebody wrote a book on it, when people say, I'm too busy to pray, I forget how it goes now. People who say, I'm too busy to pray, no, they need to pray because they're so busy. I think that's right. It's in there anyway. But we need to sense God's presence and recognise His voice. Everybody, think about this, everybody that Jesus loved, everybody that He met, every miracle He did, every great thing He did, generally, it was when He was walking somewhere. He was always going somewhere, always walking, but He always had time for people. God helped me to walk slowly enough to experience Jesus fully and love people deeply. Jesus was always walking. He was always walking from the day He was born to the day He died. He was always walking towards the cross. Because you meant that much to Him. He loved you so much that He would walk to the cross. But on the way to the cross, He touched people's lives. He changed people's lives. And as He died, even at that point, He says, Father, forgive them. For they don't know what they're doing. He was still loving people. And He still had time out. How's this? He's been nailed to the cross. And He still took time out to talk to the guy next to Him who 10 minutes ago were mouthing off at Him. He still took time out. I mean, at that point, I said, God, finish it quick. Hand over Your Spirit and get on with it. He reached out to the guy on the cross next to him, whichever side it was. How was that? Just taking time out. He's crucified and He took time out. And yet we can't take time out from our phones, our screens, our hobbies, our favourite things. God help me to walk slowly enough to experience Jesus fully and to love people deeply. Jesus walked day by day, step by step, knowing He was going to go to the cross, and yet He'd have taken time out for you if you'd have been there as well. And as His church and as His people and as His followers and His disciples, He still will take time out for people. The difference now is that we are the body of Christ, and we are the ones He moves towards, that we may reach out to people. So I'm not having a go at TV, social media, phones or anything like that. I am really. All I'm saying is, watch what you do. Don't tell me you're busy if you've got time to watch something on telly. Don't say you're busy if you've got time to watch something on YouTube or play games or whatever. Don't say you're busy, you haven't got time when you're doing something that has no eternal value. When you say you're busy, just say I'm busy doing the things I need to. If it's work, it's work. But if it's just playing games, what's the point? Read a book. Challenge yourself to read the Bible. Won't take long. 70 hours in a week, that's pretty good going if you can do it in a week. But you can definitely do it in a year. If you've never read the Bible, put that as a priority. Put a priority as saying, God, just help to slow me down so I could reach people. Jesus' priority was the lost. And that should be our priorities as well, to reach out. Amen. Amen. So did you get out of that?
Yes.
Other than, I daren't take my phone out of my pocket now. Guys, I'm in the same boat. I do Clash of Clans or Candy Crush or whatever it is. And I've got social media and I like watching odd film. But the thing is, it's not the priority. And that's the difference. They're not wrong, just don't let them be your priority. So when I get through to it back and someone says to me, I'm tired, you dare say it now, because I'll say go to bed. Oh, I'm feeling tired because I'm rushed. You know. Be blessed, guys. Amen.